What drives a person to shatter something beautiful in a moment of rage? In the quiet town of Willow Creek, where the air carried the scent of blooming flowers and the hum of community life, a single act of fury would unravel lives and expose buried truths. The park bench, a weathered oak seat by the lake, was more than just wood, and nails. It was a symbol of shared moments, a silent witness to love, loss, and laughter, until Karen McAllister, in a storm of anger, destroyed it, setting off a chain of events that would leave the town forever changed. Karen was no stranger to Willow Creek. At 42, she was a woman of sharp edges and sharper words, known for her unrelenting demands at the local coffee shop and her habit of berating anyone who crossed her path. She was a storm in human form, her presence often leaving a trail of unease. But on that fateful Saturday morning, something snapped. The park, usually a haven of peace, became the stage for her unraveling. It began with a trivial slight. Karen had arrived at the park to meet her sister, Ellen, for their weekly walk. The bench by the lake, their usual spot, was occupied by a young couple, Mia and Lucas, sharing a quiet moment. Their laughter, soft and intimate, grated on Karen's nerves. She approached, her voice cutting through the morning calm. "This is our spot," she declared, hands on hips. Mia, startled, offered to move, but Karen's temper was already ignited. Words escalated to shouts, and when Lucas stood to defend Mia, Karen's fury found a target. In a fit of rage, she grabbed a nearby rock and smashed it against the bench, splintering the wood and sending the couple fleeing. The destruction was swift but seismic. Parkgoers stared, frozen, as Karen stormed off, leaving the bench in ruins. By noon, the incident was the talk of Willow Creek, shared in hushed tones and viral X-posts. The bench wasn't just any seat, it was a memorial, dedicated to Clara Hawthorne, a beloved teacher who had passed away a decade earlier. Her family had funded its creation, carving her name into the wood as a tribute to her legacy of kindness. The town's outrage was palpable, and Karen's name became synonymous with vandalism. The legal consequences were swift. By Monday, Karen faced charges of property damage and public disturbance. The fine was staggering, $130,000, a sum that accounted for the bench's historical value and the emotional weight it carried. She was also ordered to replace it, a task that seemed simple but would prove to be her undoing. Karen, defiant as ever, scoffed at the ruling. "It's just a bench," she told reporters outside the courthouse, her voice dripping with disdain. But the town saw it differently. To them, it was a desecration of memory. Enter Daniel Ruiz, a local carpenter and Clara's former student, who was tasked with crafting the new bench. Daniel was a quiet man, his hands calloused from years of shaping wood, his heart still tender from the loss of his mentor. He had been a troubled teen, on the brink of dropping out, when Clara's patience and belief in him changed his life. The bench was personal to him, a symbol of redemption. When he learned Karen was responsible, his anger was tempered by curiosity. Why would someone destroy something so sacred? Daniel's involvement added an unexpected twist to the story. He insisted on meeting Karen before starting the project, hoping to understand her actions. Their meeting, arranged at the community center, was tense. Karen arrived, arms crossed, expecting a lecture. Instead, Daniel spoke softly, sharing stories of Clara, how she stayed late to tutor struggling students, how she brought flowers from her garden to brighten the classroom. Karen listened, her expression unreadable, but something shifted in her eyes. For the first time, she seemed to grasp the weight of what she'd done. As Daniel worked on the new bench, Karen was forced to confront her own unraveling life. Her marriage to Tom, a patient but weary accountant, was crumbling under the strain of her temper. Her daughter, Sophie, barely spoke to her, retreating into her phone to escape her mother's outbursts. The fine drained their savings, pushing them toward bankruptcy. Yet Karen refused to apologize, clinging to her pride like a lifeline. She saw herself as a victim of the town's judgment, of the couple's disrespect, of a world that never bent to her will. But the town wasn't done with her. A petition circulated, demanding Karen perform community service to atone for her actions. Among the signatures was one that shocked her: Ellen, her own sister. Ellen, soft-spoken and endlessly forgiving, had always been Karen's anchor. Her betrayal cut deeper than the fine. When confronted, Ellen tearfully confessed, "I love you, but you've gone too far. You need to change." The words cracked something in Karen, exposing a truth she'd buried. Her anger was a mask for pain, rooted in a childhood of neglect and a father who valued control over love. The twist came during the bench's unveiling ceremony. Daniel had poured his heart into the new design, carving intricate patterns of Karen flowers. Ironically, their delicate petals a nod to Clara's love of gardening. The town gathered, expecting Karen to skip the event in defiance. But she appeared, uninvited, her face pale and her hands trembling. Whispers rippled through the crowd as she stepped forward, holding a single Karen flower from her own garden. She placed it on the bench, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm sorry," she said, addressing no one and everyone. "I didn't know what it meant." For a moment it seemed redemption was possible. Daniel nodded, his eyes kind but guarded. The crowd softened, some even clapping. But the gesture wasn't enough to undo the damage. Sophie, watching from the back, turned and left, unable to forgive her mother's years of rage. Tom, too, had made his decision, filed for divorce the next day, unable to bear another storm. The town, while moved by Karen's apology, couldn't erase the memory of her destruction. The fine remained, a crushing weight that forced her to sell her home and move to a small apartment on the edge of Willow Creek. Karen's life became a quiet exile. She worked odd jobs to pay off the fine, her pride humbled by necessity. The new bench stood strong by the lake, a testament to Clara's legacy and Daniel's skill. But it was also a reminder of Karen's fall. She visited it sometimes, late at night when no one else was around, tracing the carved flowers with her fingers. She never spoke of that day again, but her eyes carried a grief that words couldn't capture. The story of Karen and the bench became a cautionary tale in Willow Creek, a reminder that rage could shatter more than wound it, could break families, communities, and lives. The Karen flower, once a symbol of beauty, now held a bitter edge, its name forever tied to a woman who couldn't control her storm. And though the town moved on, the bench remained, silently asking, "What do we destroy when we let anger win?" Nd.